If you're past age 60 and you leap out of bed the second your eyes open, stop reading everything else for the next few minutes and listen to this first. Because what I'm about to reveal regarding the first 10 minutes after waking up could genuinely transform how you begin every single day from now on. And it has virtually nothing to do with willpower or personal discipline. It revolves around something happening inside your cardiovascular system that most adults have never had explained to them clearly. Here is the simple truth. Heart attacks and strokes do not occur randomly across the day. They cluster heavily in the initial hours right after you wake up. Medical researchers have documented this pattern for decades. While the exact reasons are still being investigated, the leading explanation centers on something known as the morning blood pressure surge, a natural, sharp spike in blood pressure, heart rate, and stress hormones that occurs as your body transitions from sleep to wakefulness. For most individuals, that surge is a normal, healthy part of starting the morning. But for others, especially adults over 60 who are already managing blood pressure or cardiac health, that exact surge becomes the window where a heart attack or stroke is statistically most likely to happen. My name is Dr. Eduardo Perez Alba. For 21 years, I have worked directly with adults over 60. Today, I want to guide you through 4 completely ordinary morning habits that can make that natural surge far more dangerous than it needs to be, alongside simple, realistic tweaks that work in harmony with your body's rhythm instead of against it. If you caught my previous video on heart health, you know I like to dive into the specific, practical details that often get overlooked. This video continues that same thread with a fresh set of insights focused entirely on your morning routine, a topic we haven't covered together before. Stick with me through all 4 of these habits today because the third one surprises almost everyone. And the fourth one is the habit I see people skip more than any other, even though it might be the simplest fix on this entire list. A quick note before we jump in. If you find this valuable, go ahead and subscribe right now. This channel is dedicated to this exact type of calm, practical health guidance, and subscribing genuinely helps more people discover it. Now, let me dive right into it. Before we examine the 4 habits themselves, you need to grasp one core concept, because without it, the rest of today's lesson won't fully click into place. I call it the morning vulnerability window. Here is what is actually taking place inside your body during the first hour after waking up. 3 specific things. First, your blood pressure doesn't just rise gradually alongside you, it spikes. Studies using 24-hour blood pressure tracking consistently show a sharp, rapid surge in pressure in the minutes around waking, distinct from the smoother readings you experience throughout the rest of the day. Second, this isn't just about blood pressure. Your body also floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline as part of waking up. Those hormones further stimulate your cardiovascular system, increasing heart rate and forcing your heart to work harder right as that blood pressure spike is peaking. Third, and this is the detail most people never hear, several major studies have shown that an unusually steep or exaggerated morning surge is linked to a significantly higher risk of stroke, particularly in older adults with pre-existing high blood pressure above and beyond their average blood pressure numbers throughout the day. To put a clear number on that, researchers studying this phenomenon found that an exaggerated morning blood pressure surge is tied to roughly a 30 to 45% increase in the risk of cardiovascular events compared to a more typical, gradual morning rise. That is a major difference, and it is specifically linked to how steep and abrupt that surge is, not just to your general blood pressure readings during the day. 2 people can share identical average blood pressure numbers and still face vastly different levels of morning risk based on how sharply their pressure climbs in those first minutes awake. Here is the dangerous cascade this creates. You wake up, and your blood pressure and stress hormones begin climbing naturally as a normal part of human biology. Then certain morning habits, jumping up abruptly, a sudden temperature shock, or caffeine hitting an already activated system, land right on top of that natural surge. This adds extra cardiovascular strain during the exact window when your heart and blood vessels are already working harder than usual. Layer enough of these habits together morning after morning, year after year, and you are asking your cardiovascular system to manage its most vulnerable hour with the least amount of support. Keep this morning vulnerability window in mind as we walk through each of these 4 habits today, because every single one connects directly back to this same natural surge, either working with it gently or piling unnecessary strain on top. Now take a moment to reflect on how your mornings felt 10 or 15 years ago. Do you remember hopping out of bed without a single thought? No lightheadedness? No needing to sit on the edge first? Do you remember your first morning cup of coffee not affecting you the way it seems to now? Many adults over 60 notice these subtle shifts and simply assume mornings naturally get tougher with age, without ever connecting them to anything specific. If any of that sounds familiar, this video was made specifically for you. Here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. Nothing we are discussing today means your mornings are inherently working against you or that something is fundamentally broken. The morning surge itself is completely normal, happening to everyone every single day at every age. What we are talking about is simply eliminating unnecessary added stress during a window your body is already managing carefully on its own. The research behind this is well established, and every tweak I'm sharing today is genuinely simple, nothing extreme, and nothing requiring a total overhaul of your routine. Before we go deeper, if you'd like a structured roadmap to weave habits like these into a simple daily routine, I've created a free longevity guide linked in the description below. Thousands of people in this community are already using it. Go grab your copy now, and we'll keep walking through today's topic together. So, how does this actually play out inside the body? Picture your cardiovascular system overnight as a river flowing calmly, gently, and at low volume while you sleep. Your heart rate slows down, your blood pressure drops, and everything settles into a quiet rhythm. Waking up is like opening a dam all at once, sending a rapid, forceful surge of water back down that same river in a matter of minutes. That surge is necessary. It's what gets you up, alert, and moving. But a river that has just received a sudden rush of water is far more vulnerable to erosion and pressure on its banks right at that moment of transition compared to when it is flowing steadily. Your blood vessels undergo something nearly identical. The abrupt shift from the quiet of sleep to the surge of waking puts brief but real physical stress on your arteries, especially if those vessels are already somewhat stiffened or narrowed from years of blood pressure or cholesterol issues, which become more common as we age. Now that you grasp why this window is so crucial, let's examine what makes it riskier, one habit at a time. Multiple studies utilizing continuous blood pressure monitoring have revealed that cardiovascular events, including heart attacks, strokes, and sudden cardiac death, happen disproportionately during the first 4 to 6 hours after waking, compared to what you'd expect if these events were spread evenly across the day. That is no coincidence. That is pure physiology tied directly to the surge we just described. And it fundamentally changes how we should approach the choices we make during those initial minutes awake. I have ranked 4 specific habits from important to most critical, so you know exactly which ones deserve your focus first. The 4th habit on this list is the step most people skip completely, even though it might be the single easiest adjustment of all. Stick with me, because it only makes complete sense once you understand everything leading up to it. The first habit is jumping out of bed immediately after waking. Harold was 69 and had followed the exact same routine every morning of his adult life. Alarm goes off, feet hit the floor, straight into his day. Most people assume getting up quickly is simply a sign of high energy or great discipline. Nothing to think twice about. That isn't the whole story. When you transition from lying flat to standing upright rapidly, gravity pulls a significant amount of blood down into your legs almost instantly. Your cardiovascular system requires a brief moment to adjust blood vessel tone and heart rate to compensate, keeping blood flowing properly to your brain. That adjustment happens automatically in a healthy body, but it takes a few seconds to catch up. Doing it abruptly, on top of the morning surge, asks your system to manage 2 rapid adjustments simultaneously, instead of 1. This combination explains why lightheadedness or sudden dizziness upon standing, a condition doctors call orthostatic hypotension, becomes far more common with age, carrying real risks like an increased chance of falls beyond just feeling briefly unsteady. It's worth recognizing what this actually feels like, since it's easy to write off as just not being a morning person. A brief dimming or graying of vision upon standing, a few seconds of feeling wobbly, or a sensation that your heart is racing or fluttering right after getting up are all common signs that this adjustment period is being rushed. Most people experience a mild version of this occasionally, and it's nothing to panic over. But if it happens consistently most mornings, or if it's severe enough that you genuinely fear losing your balance, that is specific and valuable information to share with your physician, as it may indicate a need to adjust blood pressure medication or simply confirm that this habit change should be prioritized. The practical fix here is simple. When you wake up, sit on the edge of your bed for 1 to 2 minutes before standing up. Let your feet rest on the floor, take a few slow, deep breaths, and give your blood pressure and heart rate a brief window to stabilize before asking your body to fully transition into standing and moving. The mistake most people make is treating this brief pause as unnecessary or silly, something only fragile people need to do, when in reality, it is a simple, low-effort habit that honors your body's natural adjustment period instead of rushing past it. Now, the second habit operates through an entirely different mechanism, and this one surprises almost everyone the first time it's clearly explained. Drinking coffee on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Dorothy was 72, and her morning coffee was the very first thing she reached for every day for as long as she could remember, often before drinking a single drop of water. Most people assume coffee's effects on the body are identical, regardless of when you drink it. That isn't quite accurate when it comes to timing relative to this specific morning window. Caffeine is a stimulant that activates your sympathetic nervous system, the exact fight or flight system already ramping up as part of your natural morning surge. Research consistently shows that caffeine causes a measurable, acute spike in both blood pressure and heart rate shortly after consumption. This effect is often more pronounced in non-habitual drinkers, though still present in regular coffee drinkers. The core issue isn't that coffee itself is dangerous for most people with healthy hearts, it's the timing. Drinking it the moment you open your eyes means caffeine's stimulating effect hits directly on top of the natural surge already taking place, rather than after that initial spike has had time to settle down. The practical fix is straightforward and doesn't require giving up your coffee at all. Drink a full glass of water first thing upon waking, and wait 20 to 30 minutes before having your first cup of coffee. This isn't about forbidding caffeine, it's about avoiding stacking two separate cardiovascular activators directly on top of each other during your body's most sensitive hour. If you currently take blood pressure medication, this timing is also worth discussing with your doctor, as certain prescriptions and caffeine sensitivity can interact in ways worth evaluating individually. The mistake most people make is treating morning coffee as an automatic, reflexive first step, reaching for it before their feet even touch the floor, without realizing a simple 20-minute delay costs nothing and works with their body's internal clock instead of against it. If you are a caregiver or family member observing a loved one, mornings are also a deeply useful window to pay attention to from the outside. Someone who appears unusually winded, pale, or unsteady specifically during the first half hour after waking, but who seems completely fine an hour later, is showing a distinct pattern worth sharing with their doctor. That kind of specific, time-linked observation is often far more helpful to a physician than a vague sense that someone seems a little off lately. Quick pause here. Has your doctor ever specifically discussed the timing of your morning coffee in relation to your blood pressure? Leave a comment below and let me know. You'd be amazed by how many people watching this have never had that specific conversation, even if they've discussed blood pressure extensively otherwise. Alright, everything up to this point has been vital, but what I'm about to share now is where the real transformation happens. These next two habits are the ones people tell me completely changed how they view their morning routine, far beyond just heart health. The third habit is taking an extremely hot or extremely cold shower immediately after waking up. This is the one that genuinely catches most people off guard when they hear it laid out clearly. Frank was 70 and had taken pride for decades in starting every morning with a scalding hot shower. The hotter, the better to wake himself up quickly. Most people believe shower temperature is purely a matter of personal comfort, with zero cardiovascular impact. That is a major gap in understanding because abrupt, extreme temperature changes provoke real, measurable cardiovascular responses. Very hot water causes blood vessels near the skin to dilate rapidly, which can cause blood pressure to drop suddenly, especially as you step out of the steam afterward. Very cold water does the exact opposite. It triggers rapid vessel constriction and a sympathetic nervous system spike, similar to the fight or flight response we discussed with caffeine, temporarily raising blood pressure and heart rate. While either extreme alone is manageable for a healthy system, layering extreme temperature directly onto an already active morning surge forces your blood vessels to make another rapid, major adjustment during a window when they are already working harder than usual. The practical fix here is genuinely simple. Take a lukewarm shower, especially during the first few minutes, rather than stepping straight into extreme heat or cold the moment you get in. If you enjoy a hotter or colder shower as part of your routine, you don't necessarily have to give it up entirely. Simply save the more extreme temperature for later in your shower once your body has eased into it, rather than starting there right after waking. If you have a diagnosed heart condition, uncontrolled blood pressure, or a history of stroke, this is a conversation worth having directly with your physician, as sudden temperature extremes can carry more meaningful risks for certain individuals, and personalized guidance is far better than a general rule. It's important to understand why this matters more as we age specifically, rather than being an equal concern at every stage of life. Younger, more flexible blood vessels generally adapt to rapid, temperature-driven shifts quickly and with minimal strain. As we get older, blood vessels naturally tend to stiffen, a normal part of the aging process, which means the same rapid adjustment a 30-year-old system handles easily requires significantly more effort from a system with less flexibility. This isn't a reason to fear hot or cold showers entirely. It's simply why easing into extreme temperatures becomes a far more meaningful precaution as the years go by. The mistake most people make, exactly like Frank, is treating an intense shower temperature as an energizing, harmless habit, without realizing it asks their cardiovascular system to perform real, measurable work at the exact moment it's already managing a natural surge. Within just a few days of switching to a lukewarm shower, many people report feeling visibly steadier and more clear-headed getting out, avoiding the brief lightheadedness that often follows a hot shower. It's a small adjustment, but one that yields noticeable results almost immediately, making it an easy habit to maintain once you try it. Here it is. The habit that changes the conversation completely, and the one I see skipped more often than any other on this entire list. Not drinking water right after waking up. This carries tremendous weight because, unlike the other three habits, this isn't about avoiding an extra stressor. It's about actively supporting your cardiovascular system when it needs it most. Why does this get overlooked so consistently? Because it doesn't feel urgent. There is no sharp sensation prompting you to drink water first thing, the way thirst hits you later in the day. So it's easy to reach for coffee or jump into your morning routine without giving hydration a second thought. But overnight, even during peaceful sleep, you lose a noticeable amount of fluid through breathing and normal metabolic processes, going roughly 7 to 8 hours without replacing a drop. That mild overnight dehydration means your blood volume is slightly reduced right as your body asks your cardiovascular system to handle a major pressure surge, adding yet another layer of strain onto a system already working harder than it will all day. You don't need a complicated hydration routine here. Here is what the evidence actually supports. A full glass of water, roughly 8 to 12 ounces, as the very first thing you do upon waking, before coffee, before anything else. This single habit supports healthy blood volume right as your cardiovascular system navigates its most demanding hour. Plus, it pairs effortlessly with the pause we discussed in Habit 1, giving your body a moment to hydrate and stabilize before you get up and move. If you take a diuretic or blood pressure medication that impacts fluid balance, mention this habit to your doctor. Not because it's dangerous, but because your personal fluid needs may vary slightly, and your physician can offer tailored advice for your specific prescriptions. Here is a practical tip to make this habit stick effortlessly. Place a glass or bottle of water on your nightstand before going to sleep, making it the very first thing you see upon opening your eyes. Eliminating small friction points, like having to walk to the kitchen first, is often the exact difference between a habit that becomes second nature and one that quietly fades away after a few days. Before I share your 30-day challenge, I want to equip you with a tool you can bring to your next medical appointment. I call it the Morning Heart Safety Checklist. 5 focused questions that any good physician will welcome. First, based on my blood pressure history, is my morning surge something we should be specifically tracking? And would home readings right after waking be helpful? Second, given my current prescriptions, is there anything regarding morning timing, coffee, showers, or getting up that I should adjust? Third, I have experienced dizziness or lightheadedness upon standing. Should we evaluate that further? Fourth, is my current caffeine intake and its timing appropriate for my specific blood pressure and cardiac health? Fifth, are there specific morning warning signs like chest tightness, sudden weakness, or vision shifts that I should treat as an emergency rather than waiting to see if they pass? If your doctor brushes off those 5 questions, that tells you something important about how thoroughly your morning routine is being evaluated as part of your heart health. Notice that none of these questions ask your doctor for anything drastic or unusual. They simply connect the dots between your blood pressure history, your current medications, and this critical 1-hour window we've explored today. Most doctors truly appreciate a patient who arrives with clear, specific questions like these, as it makes the appointment far more efficient and valuable for both of you, rather than a vague, general check-in that yields no actionable steps. Here is your challenge for the next 30 days. Adopt these 4 small adjustments, one at a time if that feels easier. Sit on the edge of your bed for 1 to 2 minutes before standing up. Drink a full glass of water before your first cup of coffee, leaving a 20 to 30-minute gap in between. Start your morning shower lukewarm instead of at an extreme temperature. And view all 4 adjustments as one connected morning routine rather than 4 separate rules to memorize. That's it. Write down today how you typically feel during those first few minutes awake. Energized, groggy, slightly lightheaded, whatever is true for you. Revisit that note in 30 days. You don't need a flawless morning, you need a consistent one. And the shift in how your mornings feel after 30 days will genuinely surprise you. If you'd like to track your progress more concretely, rather than relying solely on subjective feelings, taking a quick home blood pressure reading right after your 1 to 2 minute pause on the edge of the bed provides an actual number to track over time. You don't need anything complex. A simple reading once every few mornings, recorded in a small notebook or on your phone, gives you and your physician real, actionable data to review together at your next visit, rather than relying on a general impression that things feel better. There is a profound difference between medical care that reacts to a cardiovascular event and medical care that quietly lowers the odds of one ever occurring in the first place. Mornings, specifically that first hour after waking, are precisely where that difference plays out every single day, whether we pay attention to it or not. The finest physicians I've worked alongside in my 21 years of practice understand that. Making a few small, consistent adjustments to something as routine as starting your day often delivers far greater long-term good than most people would ever expect from such simple habits. That is certainly no minor detail. So much of cardiovascular medicine naturally concentrates on major interventions, medications, sweeping dietary overhauls, and intense exercise programs. All of those matter tremendously, and nothing in today's video is meant to replace them. But this morning window represents one of the rare places where a small 5-minute adjustment intersects directly with a well-documented period of heightened cardiovascular risk, combining low effort with a specific, life-saving impact.